Hi everybody, this is Bob Iacchino from Path Trading Partners along with my co-founder Mike Arnold. It is July 24th and this is an afternoon Path Chat covering the futures market. Interesting day in the futures. The Nasdaq really led the market higher. S&P and the Dow were actually down on the day, but they were held up by the Nasdaq. We've got a very earnings heavy week in the equity markets, and today we had Google. We've got Amazon this week. We've got Starbucks, we've got General Motors, we've got Ford, we've got AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, we've got AT&T, we've got Twitter, we've got Southwest, we've got Pepsi. Very heavy earnings week. Google was the first today. They beat on EPS, they beat on revenues, but they missed on profits due to the EU fine for monopoly, for operating monopoly. They got a fine by the EU. And then also their cost per click was down 27%, which wasn't good. So after the market closed, Google dropped by about 2% when I last saw it. Could have gone more than that. We also had crude oil rally up today, over 1%, on a headline from Saudi Arabia that they were going to cut exports by 1 million barrels. Now, not production, but exports. Why does that matter? Because who cares how much they produce if they just leave it stored in the desert somewhere? It only matters if they go to market. So they've been shown to be producing more, but if they cut exports, that means they're not going to put those barrels into market. There was talk of trying to get Libya and Nigeria to get on board with the production cuts and take away their exemption. Russia was pressing for that, but other than that, no real headlines out of there. As I mentioned, S&P and Dow were both down, and the metals were pretty quiet, with gold basically unchanged. It was a little bit lower, and essentially the same thing out of silver, a little bit lower, down less than 0.1%. So having said all that, let me turn it over to Mike to let you know what he's seeing on the charts. Mike, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Bob. Checking in with the VIX, another new low, 926, closing at 943. So continues down. We're still pushing. Hopefully we'll see an 8 handle, maybe 899 if it continues this downtrend. Let's see what the financial futures did today. All right, get this position so everybody can see it. Dow futures came down to the bottom of our rotation zone, rallying back up, still closing down for today. If we turn back down tomorrow, lots of support, 21,445 to 21,450. If we do get below that intraday and can have a sustained push down, you could see it then easily return to 21,378. And then our next level down will be 21,340 area. On a rally tomorrow, pretty major resistance coming in of 21,521. If we can get through there, we will be watching for a return to about 21,591 to 21,600. Then if we get through that, 21,628. Switching over to the S&P futures. S&P futures holding above the rising rotation zone, slightly lower close, been in a very narrow range the last few days. Key levels we're going to be watching for. If we get below this 2,461 area, especially in a sustained intraday move, we could see it easily push down to the 2,448 area, which would be the major support level. On a rally up, we'll be watching for 2,472.50, then a retest of 2,476.25, and once we get through that, the next GAN projection level up is 2,485. Switching over to the Nasdaq. Nasdaq's the one we follow out of the three that closed up for the day. It did rise up above our GAN projection level 59.51. The actual high today was the 59.54.75, just closing back down below the prior highs before today's new high. So, another push up. We're going to be watching about this 59.51 to 59.54 level. Then above that, if it can rally through that, the 59.87 area to 59.94. If we pull back, we're going to find some support right around this 5,907 to 8 area. If that is broken, you can see a sell off to 58.90. Then if we get below that, we'll be watching for 58.80. Switching over to crude oil. Crude oil, still not much going on. We have to get out of this consolidation area. Major areas we'll be watching for is if we get above the 47.75 or getting below at this point approximately the 45.10 level. Until we see that, we're pretty much caught in this range. So you're gonna be watching range bound targets like for a rally about 47.08 and then 47.45 and then 47.75. On a pullback, be watching for this 45.80, then possibly down to the 45.40. If we get below that, the next key area down is 45.10, and if that's broken, 44.95. Again, it's got to get out of this tight range before we see some good movement. Anything else will just be scalping moves and playing prior key levels that have already been set while it's in this range. Going over to gold. Let's see what gold's doing. Gold did trigger a trendline trade last week. Finally reached the next full target after the end of the clear path. Would be this single candle top 1258 that we've talked about. So that's reached all the targets for now. We'd have to wait. Hopefully we get a little pullback. We can get a redraw of our trend line. And then if we get above a new defining point, we're trading into some of this area and there'll be some more decent long trades. So if it does rally tomorrow, 1259 to 1260 is key, then 1263, then our significant level at 1265.30 area. On a pullback, watching for pretty significant support coming in about this 1251 to 1251.50. Then if we drop below that, 1246.70. Then we get into the hooking up 50 and the rising 8. So we'll be watching for 1244.30 to 1242.80 area. Finally, switching over to silver. Silver did rally up, hit the 50-day exponential moving average 1658, which we've talked about, providing resistance, pull back again. We'd like to see also this possible redraw of our trend line. Could trigger another trade. This did trigger a trend line trade with the full target, though, still long of 1683. So on any pullback, watch for pullbacks, but we're still expecting some higher prices in silver unless we break below this rising rotation zone and really the 1617 level. That would be a trailing stop area for the silver trade. So rally back up 1658, then we'll be watching for 1664, then about 1669 on a pullback. Be looking for 1637, then possibly down to about the 1627 area where we'll have 1627 to 1625 very key support. That's all we have for you tonight from Path Trading Partners. Turning it back over to you, Bob.
Thanks for that, Michael, and thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to download the Money Path podcast or check it out at pathtradingpartners.com. And also hit like and subscribe if you like what we're doing here so we can keep these videos coming. Cheers, everyone. Thank you, and we will talk to you in the next Path Chat.